first game of the Summer Playoff Championship between the reigning champs Cloud9 and Team SoloMid.
Come from behind them, although High has burned a lot of Darius' stuff, and that is what Zed lives for.
Actually, he goes down to the Ignite.
Triple kill!
There goes Darius, and he gets a four-man pulverize. The calling hits the entire wall, and Wild Turtle's forced to stop it himself.
Yes, bro!
Oh my God, High goes down and gets a four-man last breath himself.
And he gives Cloud9 a 2-1 advantage in this best of 5.
Left by on the backside, that all starting down. Bjergsen is just raining in damage, and he does find Sneaky. Coming up with focus.
Wow, Turtle!
Angel, Turtle on the triple, Turtle on the quadra. TSM goes the full 5 and takes down Cloud9 to be the 2014 North American champions. Welcome back to day one of the NA LCS Spring Split. Hello, everyone. I am Rivington Bison III, and with me is Joshua Jat Leesman.
Yeah, it is great to be back here on the desk with you, but more importantly, in this new studio to kick off such a great season.
It seems like the TSM chants are still around, too. Another year.
Yeah, those aren't going away anyway anytime soon.
It's time to get into the action with Team SoloMid versus Cloud9. And these are the only teams to claim the title of the NA LCS champions.
Yeah, and in this matchup, Cloud9 does hold the significant edge in head-to-head winnings. Of the 23 games they've played, Cloud9's won 17 of them. But like we just saw a minute ago, TSM did dethrone Cloud9 from that pinnacle of NA teams when they won that grueling best-of-5 series and took home the Summer Split Championship. But we also have to know that TSM, they've made a roster change in the offseason. Everyone knows it. Santorin has replaced Amazing in the jungle. And historically, TSM's been a little bit of a slow starter in seasons. They take a little while to adapt to the changes, and we'll have to see how they do on this new season and patch.
Right, and TSM's preseason was a little worrisome, to say the least.
IEM San Jose, they were there, and then they were gone. They got 0-2'd or 2-0'd by Unicorns of Love, and that's probably been stinging ever since.
See if they've righted the wrongs. Now for Cloud9, they seem to thrive on change, except when it comes to their team lineup. They start this split with the same roster they have had since they entered the LCS 3 splits ago.
And this is actually really cool. They have had the same roster in 102 consecutive LCS games. As a bit of perspective, the next closest team was XDG or Vulcan when they did 61 consecutive games, but they're no longer in the LCS. Also, this one's even crazier. Of the 5 major competitive leagues, Cloud9 is the only team that didn't have an off-season roster change of some kind, which is just absolutely absurd. And it continues to be a winning formula.
It's pretty crazy. And for TSM to stay on top again this split, for them, they'll rely on the experience of veterans like Dyrus, as well as the injection of the new blood with the addition of Santorin.
To stay on the team such as TSM, a top-tier team in NA, you have to really, really be able to adapt. And if you don't adapt, then that's when you're going to get kicked.
I think the main things that has just kept Darius on the team is just his motivation and his dedication to the game. He just truly enjoys the game.
One of the reasons that he's played for such a long time and that he'll probably play forever is he just loves playing video games.
At the end of the day, I'm always trying to play as long as I can, and I feel like I got another year or 2 in me.
It's nice to have a fellow Dane on board for sure. I haven't been speaking a lot of Danish lately, but now that Santorin's been in the house, it's a lot nicer.
So they sometimes talk in their own native language, and I'm always like, what are they talking about? And they're always like laughing, and I'm just like, I don't understand.
Both of us being from Denmark, kind of we have these similarities and these things that we miss or things that we like, or we're like, oh, something is different here. And it's very easy to relate to him and very easy to be a good friend with him, which translates into the game. I think a lot of people were happy and content that we got to the quarterfinals and we took a game off White, but I think us within the team, we really feel like we can do better, and we feel like that wasn't good enough.
This season, I think we have a way better chance because we have all the resources this time, and we're going to go in not underestimating our opponents at all.
We're here to win, we're here to improve every single season, and having the same result as last year is not going to be good enough for us.
I'm excited for this spring.
I really like our team right now, and I think we have a really good chance this year.
Every new season's like waiting for that new TV show to come up, and you just want to know what happens. And I just can't wait to go and play and see how we do this year.
Well, I'm excited because this is my favorite show, and the new season is starting right now.
It is my favorite show as well. I mean, League of Legends is pretty much on 24/7 nowadays.
This is true. There was like 5 different leagues going on last night. It was absolutely amazing. Like LPL, LJL, LCK, and the Oceanic League, and then, oh my, just more. It's the best. It was beyond glorious. That was my tweet for the entire moment.
Just to let you guys know, there is a slight delay. There was a problem with Lemon Nation's mouse, actually. Something that's new to this year in the LCS is players actually had to submit 2 versions of all of their gear to League Operations unopened, so there could be no tampering for potential cheating.
That's right.
Of course, when Lemon Nation opened up his mouse, it was defective, so they had to go get the backup, which is one of the problems. And one other thing, actually, there was a lot of discussion before the game about a Sivir bug that appeared to be pretty game impacting. It's if her spell shield is blocking a spell, and in that exact same frame, someone hits with an auto attack, that will not do damage. And it was almost disabled, but it was deemed because of how late it came up and because of the rarity of the bug happening that it is playable this week. So if the Sivir bug happens in game, all the teams have been notified. There will not be a remake of the game.
Right.
So just so everybody knows that, we can play some League of Legends.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah.
It's been a real long break. I'm sure the players are ready as well. The new season coming in with only 2 games to go against each other, and I'm sure coming into this game, TSM's going to be haunted that Cloud9 did beat them at the beginning of the split, so they'll try to get a replay of that rerun, if you will, as Dyrus likes to call it, a show. But we will have to see. As we said, the coaches will be on stage, and that's going to be a huge impact. I like what they were saying on the stage, or on the analyst desk, where it kind of does put a face to the champion select went well because of this. Or, you know, you can kind of fall back on that coach and be like, we need to do something different. It might have been his fault.
I also got to talk with Cloud9 a little bit because I was curious whether it was going to be Lemon Nation's notebook or Charlie's notebook, or if they would have 2 notebooks.
Is that undermining Lemon's notebook?
Yeah, exactly. And word on the street is Lemon Nation will retain his notebook, and Charlie is there for supplemental information. He will have his own notes, but it will not be the same as Lemon Nation's notebook. Just so we got that cleared up.
All right, we'll see. They're all dressed fancy. That's really going over well. People are enjoying it. We see Loco Doco sporting the polka dots for this one. It's fancy. Polka dots are a good deal.
Yeah, just to talk a little bit more about the way these 2 teams have been preparing. Obviously, the offseason for TSM was very poor in a sense because they had that one showing at IEM San Jose. They went 0-2 to Unicorns of Love. Also keep in mind that Cloud9 basically ran the table at that tournament. They beat Elements, who was Alliance at the time. They then 2-0'd the finals, 3-0'd the finals against Unicorns of Love, and looked to be the strongest team in North America. But honestly, every time people count TSM out, they seem to come storming back. So I think this will be a really fantastic first game.
It'll be interesting. A lot of the vlogs showed that times were tight getting up to scrim, and not a lot of people have been scrimming because they're all just getting back into the country. So that'll be interesting to see as they pan out into the games. While we're working out the technical issue, we are going to throw it over to the guys at the analyst desk.
Thanks, Riv. Yeah, some technical issues. We'll get those sorted out, but this means that we get a little time to speculate.
Kobe and the Freaks are back.
Analysis. All right. So obviously, there's been a lot of changes to the game since the last time we saw these 2 teams go up head to head. So is anyone here confident enough to pick a team to come out on top, given all the changes? Yes? All right, let's go. Start with you.
We're going down the line. I'm going to say Cloud9. They look sharpest. Santorin, Jack talked about it briefly over about IEM San Jose. They didn't look too hot, TSM overall. Maybe they've gelled a bit better since then, but I mean, if you're going to pick a favorite, you've got to pick Cloud9.
Yeah, and statistically speaking, Cloud9 is, the better team in the head-to-head matchups here. Also, I think TSM has a problem usually with adapting to patches, and this is a really big change for them. They're usually about a patch behind, so I really hope that they can actually just bring it today. And Cloud9, they have been innovators for a very long time, and like Sneaky's been streaming a bunch. His Callista looks like off the chain, really good right now.
Yeah. Do we expect to see Callista let through then?
I would probably see it banned or something to counter it.
Yeah, I feel like we've already seen the champion played, even though I don't believe there is a hot fix for this current tournament realm patch. The one thing actually you talked about being a patch behind, there's something that interests me a lot about this patch, which is the trinket changes where upgraded yellow trinkets, upgraded blue trinkets are a lot better and cheaper. I love
You love that thing.
I love green ward droppers. I think they're amazing. I actually think you should have multiple on your team. I asked Dyrus about this, like, hey, what do you think about upgraded yellow trinkets? He's like, I like it, but no one buys them, so I second guess myself. And I was like,
there's actually a lot of people that have fallen in love. They're just not saying anything because they want to keep it secret.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's basically, it's almost like having a sight stone. I mean, you can't drop them whenever you want, but it's only 200, 250 gold
250, yeah.
to upgrade it, and it's really efficient.
For an almost sight stone.
Bring it back to this game, though.
Yeah.
Cloud9 versus TSM. Who you pages? You guys are really heavy on Cloud9. I give them the edge, but as far as the IEM performance, I have to say that TSM are definitely going to play much better than they did at IEM. I mean, Bjergsen underperformed. That was very uncharacteristic of him. Also, Santorin, you could see exactly what the problem was. He was a newer jungler on a big stage. He's got now TSM fans that he's playing for, so he was a little bit hesitant to take risks, and very rarely does he have to play in a game where his mid laner gets killed that early. That changes a jungler's map for the entire game completely if your mid lane collapses. So I feel like he's going to have a stronger showing this time around. And he'll be able to overcome some of those nerves, as well as, work with the rest of the team. Of course, Bjergsen, I'm predicting to have a much better performance as well.
That being said, though, he is going up against one of the
Medios
touted best jungler in North America. So although I agree there was a bit of a shock factor at IEM San Jose, and just like, I don't know what to do now when I'm against TF jungle and they get an early kill. My mid lane's collapsing. There's so many things to worry about. But when you're going up against Cloud9 in the season opener, are you telling me there's not less pressure?
So that big surprise, I'm looking at the jungle for this game. Definitely my featured matchup.
Weird.
But Medios, as you said, he's always great at adapting to new patches. I'm very curious to see what types of champion he uses. Of course, it's probably going to be the big ones, the Lee Sin, Rek'Sai, Jarvan.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see how he works with his laners to get those invades and get the vision down, because that's where Cloud9 always take control of the jungle. It's through the lanes that actually help him and support him in getting that deep vision down.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning, actually. I believe last time C9 and TSM had a season opener, Teemo Mid won the show. So, I mean, I feel like most seasons start with C9 doing something crazy and beating TSM with it. So I want to see if it happens again. I don't know if it's Teemo or what, but I have high hopes for, new season, something crazy.
Yeah, we should be looking at the coaches, really, because this is the first time that we have coaches North American LCS. And I have to say, Charlie, I think, won at least the best dress as far as the coaching matchup this time around. He had the full Cloud9 suit.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
A little bit better.
Cloud9 suits? Did they beat Gambit out for tailored suits with the logo on it?
The other interesting thing, though, about the coaches matchup is the fact that both of these coaches already existed in previous seasons. Yeah. So really the big
These
change,
were the two that I mentioned as the strongest
right.
coaches in the league. That's why it's going to be
and they
big.
are proven to be, great coaches, given the record of the team in the past. The change, though, is the fact that now they'll be on stage during that champion select period, and I think it's going to be interesting to watch the C9 dynamic there because of the fact that Lemon Nation is generally the one running the show there.
That's why I think TSM is actually going to get more benefit from having their coach on stage, because like the Cloud9, they're a really good team. It's just going to up them a little bit, because Lemon Nation was doing a whole bunch in Champion Select already, but the addition of Loco Doco in Champion Select and the morale that he brings to the team is just a bigger increase for TSM by that rule change.
All right, well, the teams are ready on the stage, so we're going to send it back to the caster desk to take us into the game.
Thank you very much, Dash, and it is going to be a fantastic game. With that, let's jump right in with a quick look at the team's lineups. On the blue side, it's going to be Team SoloMid. That's Dyrus in the top lane, Santorin now in the jungle, Bjergsen at mid, Wild Turtle at AD carry, and Lustboy at support.
And on the red side, it is Cloud9 with the same lineup they've had for the last 102 games. Balls in the top lane, Medios in the jungle, High in the mid lane, Sneaky on AD carry, and Lemon Nation, and confirmed his notebook as well on support.
Absolutely. Even High has got some paper here. These guys are doing their homework. I'm hoping for a lot of flavor, like EU LCS. EU LCS had some great picks, a lot of variety, back and forth. Some didn't work out so well, but they were definitely trying to put their hand out there.
If we remember to the last time TSM Cloud9 opened an LCS season against each other, High picked AP Teemo.
Yeah, he did.
At the time, and was victorious.
Yep.
Then AP Teemo was never seen again in the LCS, and everyone just forgot that it happened.
It's because you feel bad about it. It's like every one of your three-pointers goes off the backboard and in. That's just look,
Yeah, it's just not a lot. You got to call it.
So what, have they done their homework? Like we said, a lot of people haven't been scrimming too much, or that's the word. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't.
Well, TSM and Cloud9
for sure
have had the least issues as far as being able to have everyone in country. Obviously, Cloud9 an all North American team. TSM did have a few issues getting there, but they've been practicing. I talked to the coaches. They are good to go.
Is it still Worlds? Rumble Tristana? What's going on? All right. 2 bans already on the board. Team SoloMid.
The Tristana ban is very targeted at Wild Turtle.
Right.
They watched the pre-roll video for this series with Wild Turtle critting like 8 times and 11 attacks and getting a quadra kill to win Game 5.
Cassid and FlexPick tossed out of this one. They won't be going anywhere. There's Loco Doco and Charlie, respectively, for TSM and Cloud9. Always on comms with these guys, and then at the end, they walk off stage, and the team takes it into their own hands.
And as Kobe mentioned, these are 2 of the most experienced coaches. Cloud9 had the title of analyst, still does, but he is their coach. He is also their coach as well.
Right.
Loco Doco really grew TSM to substantial improvement after Reginald brought him on to be the head honcho there at TSM.
That was different, too.
Pretty standard bans here so far.
Wow. Lysandra as well. So if not everything at balls, a few flex picks there, it's definitely going to hurt high and balls in the same.
I'm really surprised that Janna was not banned. Just based on the
high
relative
priority
success.
in a lot of regions.
It's been banned or picked very early in pretty much every region, especially knowing the Korean influence that TSM holds, Loco Doco coming from there. Just OGN statistics. This is not counting the games that happened last night. But Janna was 100% pick ban over in the LCK. And of the games, Janna was in 9-2. So it's just a very powerful pick. Lustboy can't play it. And there's a lot of stuff that you can first pick nowadays. So obviously it could be a little bait and switch that Cloud9 has planned. They've done it in the past. They left Warwick up at IEM San Jose only because they were good at playing against it. You can tell Loco's taking his time with this one.
And champion selects have been taking a lot longer. We see the last ban, Nidalee, coming in. If you had seen Bjergsen's vlog from the beginning of January, he's been having a lot of success on Nidalee and LeBlanc. And all the way through, we saw it banned pretty much in every region as well. Rek'Sai, first pick for TSM.
Oh, man.
The Gnar goes through
Fast
as well,
and furious
and
here.
the Sivir. They know what they want.
I got
Cloud9's gonna keep the yellow hue.
a little bit distracted by Janna not being there because this is another thing that these guys have been talking about.
Got to forget about the other ladies of the league.
There's so many things that a lot of these teams want to ban, and because of the heavily targeted nature of Cloud9's bans on red side with the Trist ban and the Nidalee ban, it just left up a lot of stuff that is usually banned or first picked, which allowed Cloud9 to take 2 things that are potentially banned. But once again, Janna's still there. I really hope TSM takes it away on this rotation. Otherwise, I think Cloud9's going to lock it down and have Janna and Sivir for more speed.
Scary damage as well coming out of that early game laning phase. Easily pushing something out. Lustboy and Wild Turtle can be aggressive, but definitely see that coming from Sneaky and Lemonation more. Seeing now what TSM wants to put in here, we actually see Santorin speaking with a few of the refs, making sure everything is right as rain, and looks like they will be able to pick that up. It's going to be the Jinx. Janna, J-Lane.
Wow.
Bringing it in for Team SoloMid.
Jinx is not something we see very much of at all. Definitely Sivir Corki have been
interesting
the kings of the AD carry lane, but yeah, it's going to be a pretty good lane for them when they decide to go up against Sivir. We'll see how that ends up playing out, or if they do a bit of a lane swap there.
We'll see what High has been practicing here coming into the beginning of the season. Usually noted for a smaller champion pool. And with a lot being banned out right now, they're definitely getting down to the bottom of that barrel. Sneaky already has his pick. And they already see jungle. To give something away, they already have their top lane. They are taking their time, though. That's something, as I said, the coaches have really
Support jungle here for Cloud9. I think will be their 2
Support
picks.
jungle pickup? Yeah.
Yeah, Meteos basically just Lee Sin and Lee Sin and Jarvan have been the contested picks globally, but Elise is a Meteos special that he has been playing a lot of in solo queue.
So are people still building the kind of I'm just going to go quick cooldown items, Elise, or damage now with the new jungle items?
So I haven't been following it super closely. Meteos is trying a little bit of everything.
Okay.
He has done an AP Elise, he has done a tank Elise. Usually when he plays in competitive, he goes tankier, so that's what I expect to see out of him. Ooh. I wonder. The thing is here, unless they pick a heavily flexible mid and top lane, they are allowing High a counter pick against Bjergsen.
That's why I said Cassio is going to be a scary blind pick if they put that one in there. Not the easiest one to not know what you're going up against. Azir, however, seeing quite a bit of play, and he has quite a bit of damage to bring out on the table as well. Controlling team fights that are longer in time and all bunched up is definitely his forte.
For people who have mastered Azir, it is a basically needed to be banned champion against some of them, but he ends up going with Challenger Ahri instead, or just Ahri. We'll see if he decides.
New splash, though.
Yeah.
making everything look nice. So here we are, high for the mid lane.
Yeah, definitely going up
Assassination.
against Gar. You get to see the entirety of both teams.
Fizz is open. We've seen a lot of Fizz. We heard Zareen talking about how Calicho is going to bring that to the top lane, but it'll be mid lane this time. It'll be going towards High. I always think that when High's on Fizz, he kind of goes a little too deep for the team to get in, but now he's got balls on Gnar. He's got the repel to go in as well, and I think they'll be able to back him up this time.
We'll see if they end up having a strong tank line with the Elise and Gnar to zone them out. On a surface level, I enjoyed Cloud9's team composition right now because they have the mobility of Sivir and some pretty long-range divers that are difficult for Janet to disengage. But, of course, TSM has Rek'Sai, which is a little bit ridiculous and has been banned in pretty much every game I've seen.
And really excited to see that. Kind of puts a little pressure on Santorin's shoulders. He's got to show up with Rek'Sai now, and we'll see if the kind of bait switch that UOL pulled on Bjergsen with the TF and going hard on mid lane can be fixed, if that doesn't kind of put TSM on the back foot anymore, because that threw them off for the whole series. That's not the TSM we know.
It really did. Can the curveballs and picks and bans be corrected? I mean, that's one thing that Zareen and the guys were talking about on the desk. You're completely accountable now for what happens in these pick and ban phases. And if Santorin doesn't perform on Rek'Sai, well, obviously Santorin's going to take the brunt of it. You would have to look at the rest of TSM and the coaching staff as well.
Well, as the teams load in, let us know who you think will be victorious. For those of you who are out of practice, just tweet hashtag TSM win or hashtag C9 win to us here at LOL Esports. Our production minions will be counting your votes throughout the game. And this is game one of the North American LCS Spring Split 2015. We're about to get underway. The rematch of Team SoloMid versus Cloud9. And it's 2 games this season. The implications of game one, and I kind of felt it as a viewer when some of the games in EU went so lopsided. You're thinking to yourself, that team only has one more chance. It weighs on you, and it weighed on me as a viewer. It's going to weigh on the players.
Yeah. Every game matters, and Cloud9 trying to storm out of that base early on. We'll see if there's any level 1 action. It's been fairly subdued throughout the regions, but it does look like Cloud9's doing a strong invade onto that bottom side.
First ward. Oh, I think the bottom one was placed already.
They could be walking clean into a ward, though.
Yep.
They did not bring a sweeper either, so they are completely spotted out.
Oh, just Lost Boy with that sweeper actually on his side.
Yeah.
So we do see High staying back to make sure nothing gets into their jungle and they're not going back into a trap themselves.
Early on, this does give TSM a slight advantage, but basically because they did that strong invade and they're placing that ward in the lane, this is Cloud9 trying to scout a lane swap at the moment.
We actually, when, as they are, we heard when Yellow Star did it and Fnatic did it in their first game, they said, we didn't really want a lane swap. We could have. We just did it to kind of confuse them. So interesting mind games. Yeah.
It's a lot of it is just getting knowledge of where the lanes will be, whether you want the lane swap or you don't. It's still good to have the information.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And a lot of wards down. There's 5 wards placed down now by Cloud9 all through the bottom side of the jungle. And you can see the vision coming in, I believe, for TSM here. Not too much.
Yeah, TSM, because of their vision control and player placement at the start of the game, holds all of the cards of where people are starting. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to be able to use that properly. You can see the jungle starts are variant right now. For Cloud9, they are doing 2 camps, one at the top lane and one at the jungle, whereas TSM is double jungling, actually, with Rek'Sai and Aurelia.
And with not really seeing too much Gnar here towards the NA LCS since we just started, how is his 2v1? If he's behind, if he's lower in gold, can he kind of resort to a Malphite-esque and be all right with just that armor and whatnot being
That is the Gnar in the 2v1s. Yeah, he can survive. He's a ranged champion. In fact, if they really wanted to, they can lane Gnar Thresh, which is something that Cloud9 does a lot of in the past, is the balls plus Lemon Nation lane and leaving Sneaky all by his lonesome. We'll end up seeing what they do because they are doing a fair bit of swapping right now. Lemon went back to base early for some extra wards.
Santorin moving down inside. Well, looks like they'll be safe here. Nothing's going to be moving up. I thought we were going to see at least High coming down to put his ward back down as it is up, but he knows he's not going to be feeling any pressure from the 2v1s. The vertical jungle going on with the lane swap, as we see regularly. Balls now is in lane to do what he can. It's 2-4 just on Dyrus and Balls so far. We'll see if Dyrus can go hard As we saw towards the end of last split, he was taking out Ackerman in the top lane, Godlike, doing what he could, and we saw him get a little rowdy and start carrying games for the team. Will he be able to carry that into this split? We'll have to find out. It's going to be tough for the top laners to see these 2v1s all the time again.
Yeah, well, luckily for Balls, he's already level 3. So he got a good bit of experience in the jungle, but he does have the danger of getting denied outright here because the wave is pushing against him, whereas Dyrus and Santorin have done the double jungling for a fair bit, and Cloud9 is doing a pretty big freeze in the top lane as well. I really wonder how they're going to end up playing this out because there's some denial that's happening on both sides here. Cloud9 with the freeze and TSM, which will soon have a freeze.
Seeing Santorin quickly going for a different, it's Trailblazer for Meteos,
Balls is staying in experience range of all of this though. Because of the levels he was able to acquire, it's not pushing him off these minions.
Easy with that long range, and even he said if they bring Lemon Nation down, that's going to be nice to hit some hooks. Very nice Orbit Deception from the Charm, followed up. Getting some damage onto high here, and this is the roam now from Lemon. They're going to see if they can get Bjergsen on a catch. I don't think they're going to get too much out of this as he just has a ward towards that top side. It died just as he walked in. Santorin also seen both buffs on him. So knowledge here for Cloud9 is going to allow them to stay safe here towards this early game. A lot of focus, however, towards Sneaky. We'll have to see if they can act on this.
Yeah, they show very early, almost like they're just trying to shove in. None of these sneaky dives coming up. It's very hard to dive on a level 4 sliver, especially when Lemon Nation is there.
Pretty straightforward.
So they're really just trying to get as much experience as they can here. I'd say Cloud9 is winning this early game by a fair bit, both in experience and a little bit in CS. Which is really peculiar to me, considering TSM knew exactly where they were starting. So Cloud9 outplaying more so than outpreparing at this point.
There's our first scuttler down. Meteos is going to grab control of that, and Cloud9's ward game is amazing right now. Keeping at least 5 on the map all over the place. Does not look like any ganks will be coming out of Santorin. Ball's doing what he can to keep Turtle at bay. Not too bad on CS though. 26-9, however.
Exactly. If you're comparing the top lanes, unless there's a huge discrepancy in the AD carries, because sometimes teams will trade top lane farm for AD carry farm, but at the moment, TSM is just losing out on that. Balls is getting his top lane farm, and Sneaky is getting his AD carry farm.
So it looks like we got lanes matched back up a little bit. It's a 2v2, but it's not going to be the AD carry. That's Dyrus. Does he want to take the Lantern? It'll bring him a little too close here. Lost Boy still has that chance to disengage this, and they're just going to be able to walk out of it. Dyrus taking a lot of trouble here, and it's going to be hard for Relia to get into these fights and try to combat a Gnar when they really have to go at it.
So I do want to mention what Meteos is doing here, because it's an underappreciated thing for junglers. Notice how he got 50 gold for the crab and 30 gold from the jungle item. That's a lot of power he's going to have every time he goes back and chops, and it's very easy to kill that first crab. So good vision control, good gold, maybe even a gank. Rek'Sai could see the dots though.
Yep, Rek'Sai sees the dots. Actually something that you really have to take into consideration. A few of the tunnels are not going to decide to clear because it will give vision, but they do make a move towards the bottom lane, and they had the chance to. TSM is not winning this early game, but they have the chance to make moves, not lose CS in lane. So TSM now, they have to make some moves. See Bjergsen staying safe, so he might be able to get a play off of this level 6 now in mid lane.
He's going to have to. I mean, it's because Cloud9 is completely controlling the pace of this early game by initiating the lane swap. I don't think TSM had a very good response. Rek'Sai is quite weak at this point in the game. You can see level 4 to Meteos' 5, and Meteos had taken both of the river crabs. It's not looking that great for TSM. Bjergsen will have to make a play if they want to come back here.
Especially since Meteos will make plays for the team. He will go hard, and he'll take a few deaths as well. Usually getting out alive, but we'll see him making those plays very, very soon. Level 6 will come up. Won't give him a spike of anything. We'll have to see if Santorin can match that with his 6. Like you said, a level down. So he may be just a bit behind that gank. 7.5 minutes on the clock. 600 gold lead here. Mid lane, quite even. Just a few CS towards high as Bjergsen found a little bit of trouble there in the beginning. All the Fruit Loops.
Got into blue real fast. He's got there. He did it. That seems to be usually the most common use of that Rek'Sai ultimate, is either to get back to your jungle or to transfer from one side of your jungle to the other. Got to get that blue to Bjergsen as quickly as possible.
Both blues will be traded respectively to their sides, and we'll see if this also comes for a gank so we can get a buff transfer on this one. Won't be for Meteos. He backs, make it some more to finish that jungle item. Or actually get some boots on his body so he can make a little move.
Yeah, so as we thought...
Oh, 7-5.
As we thought, right now, Meteos is going for the tank Spirit on Elise.
Yeah.
So
Juggernaut.
if he gets Magic Penetration later, it'll be like that classic Spirit of the Ancient Golem build. High taking a few charms in that mid lane, but really keeping up in CS just fine. Bjergsen in this Ahri versus Fizz matchup does know it's actually a fairly even matchup.
Yeah.
Many people back in Season 3 would consider Fizz a counter pick to the Ahri, but Ahri does have a lot of lane shoving advantages early, which kind of evens it out. If it does get late game, a lot of people consider Fizz the better choice.
Right.
But that's not even the story of this matchup. It's the fact that Dyrus is so heavily denied. And Balls is going to be a big Gnar. Dyrus is going to be a little baby Aurelia.
We did hear Dyrus after they got out of IEM that it wasn't the games they really wanted to play, and they didn't practice too much going in. They didn't have the synergy they wanted. You mentioned that Santorin kind of tried to boost them up as the new guy in the team, and it helped him. Maybe they aren't feeling what they were getting out of their scrims right now. They'll be able to do that a little bit later in the game. We still have dragons to try and fight over. Good amount of AoE damage here coming from Team SoloMid, but still eyes on Dyrus. Can't compete with a Gnar in a fight. Forcing the flash in the bottom lane. It's going to be something they could act on here, but with Santorin being so low and so weak, it may not be able to be a dive that they can act on.
Yeah, well, here we're seeing why the lane swap happened for Cloud9, because Wild Turtle, when he is in that rocket form, heavily outranges Sivir, and Lemon Nation ended up taking a large amount of harass while he was trying to have some zone control.
That's a chunk of waters.
He doesn't want to go in on that.
Not a lot of damage.
Bjergsen had Santorin in his back pocket right there. That's one thing about these guys, Santorin and Bjergsen. They do have a lot of innate synergy, both from language, when they can speak Danish together. Obviously, they play in English and both speak good English, but they also have a tremendous amount of duo queue experience.
Yeah.
Santorin is pretty much the highest rated jungler on NA solo queue before the reset, under the name Hot Guy Sixpack. But it does show he basically camps for Bjergsen, which I think is what Cloud9 is kind of playing around here. High's content sitting on his turret.
Oh, first blood coming out. That's going to be it. Santorin not even needed.
Well, if you're going to play passive for that long and take enough harass from Bjergsen, he's going to kill you. And that's what ended up happening there. There's not much Meteos could do to stop that unless he was literally waiting in the wings, but it was actually warded out on the flank. So that's that individual play Bjergsen's trying to make.
Oh, no box on that one. No level 6 for Lemon Nation. How is that possible in this fight? That's some big damage. Another Rockets miss with just a sidestep, but they try to take a fight with low levels.
And actually, TSM burns more summoners on the backside of that one. Plus, when Lemon Nation hits 6, it's going to give them another little power spike right there. And the jungle control continues for Meteos. So, nice little play there by the Cloud9 bottom lane.
Got it. Safe.
That's one of the reasons Rek'Sai's banned so many times. It's not necessarily his ganking presence, which can be quite high. It's his map pressure that he applies right there. Even when TSM's bottom lane went back to base temporarily, even the thought of Dragon Control was gone because Santorin used that to just gain position on the map.
Now, it's obviously on you to make the right moves, but you're signifying to the entire map that you're flying somewhere. If you get caught out, could that be a negative play?
Only if you do really stupid things.
Well, yeah.
I think most of the time
part.
It's a positional choice, and it helps you get there much, much faster.
Well, hopefully those positional choices all work in the advantage for Team SoloMid here. First blood to them. It's not going to be huge. It just goes over to Bjergsen. We're not going to be able to get Dragon out of this or too much. Still way too much pressure from Cloud9 out of that early game. TSM is still trying to recuperate from what damage they took. But for now, they're kind of actually, as you were mentioning, Santorin in the mid lane behind Bjergsen has kind of been a style since we've seen Reggie and Odd1. It's the lanes already know what to do on the outside, and in the mid lane is that camaraderie between the jungler and the mid.
That's the hope. Pretty subdued game outside of the solo kill and the great lane swapping from Cloud9.
Yeah.
Although Sivir, as far as team fights are concerned, does give Cloud9 a pretty nice a pretty nice positional edge. And the zoning potential from a big Gnar is absolutely massive to allow Sivir to actually get the ricochets off. So team fight wise, I do see some pretty big edges for Cloud9 as this approaches the late game. But TSM has been able to make a few plays, and they will just have to rely on Bjergsen to land charms and get kills that way.
They're staying safe and staving things off. That's exactly what all the pink wards in their jungler are saying, at least. Bottom ward for the blue side is warded up with things for Cloud9 to make sure their AD carry support lane stays safe. But other than that, TSM just doesn't want to get pushed in anymore. And like you said, to get Bjergsen fed that much more. He's sitting on needlessly large rod in the Fiendish Codex right now. Only a little bit of CS ahead of High at this point, but we see them still going head-to-head in the mid lane. First blood has come from Bjergsen. It's gotta feel good. I mean, when you get first blood in the game, you usually take a little more chances. A few more chances, rather. So we could see that happening.
He's really going to have to. A 700 gold lead on his opponent High. And everyone else in the AD carry lane is splitting farm. And Balls and Dyrus have honestly been splitting farm since they got up there in a 1v1. So I do have to give credit to Dyrus there for CSing against a Gnar who has a level and experience advantage. Dyrus disadvantaged by the early map positioning plays by Cloud9 and trying to just make it back with a little bit of grit.
Dyrus always like to focus on the people who play around him, he says.
Oh dear.
Understand how they play, figure that out, be as good as them, and maybe excel even a little bit more. Another play, Chum the Waters will stop, but he doesn't use the Spirit Rush to get knocked out. Doesn't look like he actually has another charge on it anyways, and High finds himself safety without having to use a flash or summoner spell.
Yeah, trying to make a play off of Bjergsen's play, and Vidios is camping the top lane where no one is there. Cloud9 does not have wave clear to stop this push. What a great rotation by TSM.
Already camping a lane that's winning, and Team SoloMid takes advantage of it fully 15 minutes. And it's 2 consecutive turrets in the mid lane for Team SoloMid.
And when you look at the map, it's just sloppy wards by Cloud9. They lost river control. Both crabs are up. They had no wards in the mid lane. So all it took was Bjergsen using his ultimate on High to get him out of lane, and then an easy push. Because Cloud9 couldn't necessarily respond to that because they didn't know where to look. There was nothing for them to see.
Bjergsen's halfway through level 11, which makes me think he actually had it for that fight, meaning he had a lot more power than High as well as he started it.
He hit level 11 first and just went.
Yeah, real hard. So it looks like Dragon's going to be getting a little bit of attention. Probably not to be taken just yet, but they will know that they are stronger for that fight if it comes up. We do see the all and ever beloved DFG right now on Bjergsen. He's going to be using that for this game.
Yeah, and Cloud9 is slow to respond. It basically TSM said, all right, it's time to push lanes. We know we have vision control. Right after that mid lane push, they got vision control in the jungle, and they can just continue this onslaught.
Whoa, Santorin going deep on this one, even though he's not that tanky, but the team's there, the synergy's there. Balls comes down, this is a teleport in, and he's not even close to Gnaring out. As a Gnar, you hardly ever fight outside that mode. He's getting very close. Chum the Waters will grab Lustboy. They have one, but they won't be able to look for more, and that took quite a bit just to get it.
Yeah, but it was, as of now, a 1-for-1 with the turret. Let's see if Dyrus can get away from this assault.
He is getting more crowd control, that tenacity from the amount of people around him, but I don't think it's going to help in the end. He tries to go for a blade surge to get himself out, but locked down by 4. Cloud9 make it 2 and 2.
A flurry of action right there.
Yeah, Guppy Dragon finally.
It looks like Cloud9's going to be able to get a Dragon at 17 minutes, though. This will actually give him a pretty nice teamfight edge since we're approaching the point in the game where that 6% additional attack damage and ability power will actually multiply after some of their items with the Infinity Edge Lichbane done. Those are 2 guys that will be benefiting pretty well from that. Cloud9 ends up striking back, although it was quite sloppy vision-wise that allowed TSM to even get in that position that Cloud9 had to fight back. But now they responded and we're pretty even.
I think they kind of felt what you were thinking, that they hadn't made too many moves and they had to act on that.
Yeah, well, Cloud9 had been in control, and it looked like they just got really lazy with their wards. They've started to reestablish them now after that turret take. They got some nice wards in the TSM jungle. They were able to clear some of the pinks.
Man, everybody's bottom lane right now, allowing Bjergsen to pretty much solo this top lane. A little more freeness here for Team SoloMid. They're not really moving up any of their ward coverage, though, just yet. So it doesn't seem like they're too safe to keep this up without the rest of the team. They're playing it safe. They're playing it pretty strong right now, especially, like you said, for the early game that they had to go through. Let's see that one more time.
Yeah, well, this was just TSM having an advantage in the rotation. Santorin goes in really hard. They burn the Sivir ultimate. They get elimination out of there. But a pretty fed Balls teleports in substantially ahead of Dyrus, which made Cloud9 have the upper hand here, even though they could have been outmanned if TSM would have stayed in sync.
Yeah.
On the backside, High ends up landing a Shark. TSM is scattered because they were outnumbered, and they end up picking up a kill.
Whoa, that was a very aggressive hook coming out of Elimination. They show a little bit of strength.
Oh, flash!
Flash engage coming in from Santorin. Bjergsen picks up High. Santorin's gonna go down. Is it worth? And that is just going to be Meteos trying to find a way out of this fight. Another one. That's going to be a kill down onto Meteos going over to Dyrus, who had a hard laning phase. So that will assist halfway through his Gnar ult. And it looks like Balls is only... What is he doing?
He's trying to fight. He's Big Gnar.
This is going to be very tough. They don't have Sneaky too close. And now Sneaky's the one in the back line with no mana. What are they doing? TSM taking advantage of all these C9 mishaps.
Yeah, a little bit of pre-season sloppiness right there from Cloud9. Santorin using his flash as he comes out of Burrow, which works just like any other flash ability. He gets the immediate knock-up onto High, into a charm. They blow him up before he can become untargetable on Fizz, and then they just cascade that into a pretty good team fight. Compositionally, if Cloud9 can stay together, they can control that with their front line and avoid their squishies from getting caught. But if Cloud9 keeps messing up a little bit with his ward control and not being together, not keeping the lane shoved, that's going to keep happening because it looks like Bjergsen and Santorin are on the case of getting catches.
Trying to push out mid lane right quick. Ooh,
Baron.
All right. Meteos will be taking his own red as we finally get some lanes pushed here by Cloud9. They're trying to recuperate, get themselves some breathing room. We do see Cloud9 is, or rather TSM is finally pushing up just the regular vision wards into the river as they are getting ready to invade on the side of Cloud9 soon. And this one goes to Turtle. We just saw Meteos taking the other one, so Turtle's going to be really helping to keep these fights engaged with that red buff. Meteos again, he's just a crab man. He likes seafood.
A lot of nice money there. 85 gold for that one, plus the vision control. And once again, this time Cloud9 had pushed out the waves in the proper manner. And while TSM was trying to keep up, they were able to take a turret. What a close game.
For TSM to come back the way they did that fast is a few plays. And like we said, maybe had to be Bjergsen mid, maybe had to be Santorin doing a few things, and it was those two.
Yeah, it was Bjergsen making the plays. They're trying to rotate to that mid lane and catch Cloud9 before they can go back, but they do want to make sure they don't get flanked, which is why they had to take that quick break and ward the side of the jungle.
No fear of getting sideswiped right now. They just have too much escape, especially disengage from Lust Boy. So they're going to go ahead and start denying a few of the resources here on the side of Cloud9. That only means they're losing control of their jungle, and things are not looking good. Dyrus is starting to get himself a little bit bigger, which is going to help him stay in these fights against Balls' Gnar. Baron is live. Probably won't see too much aggression towards that just yet, but Dragon is in a minute 30, so teams should start to have their mind set on that, and that's the pink wards in from TSM right now.
Yeah, and the way these guys have gotten advantages in this game have generally been about wave control. And you could see even from Dyrus in that top lane how important it is just to get the waves in the right spot. He was burning his ultimate straight up for that. Against Sivir, it can very easily become that type of game. Jinx is a pretty good pick against it because Jinx very quick wave clear as well when she uses her rockets.
Right.
And at this point, Cloud9 is a little bit behind on the Dragon timer. Dyrus pushed that wave. There was no one up there to counter that push, and they're either going to lose a large wave top lane or control of the Dragon area.
Well, right now, control of the Dragon area, top priority. Maybe somebody will start to head top, but you are exactly right. They're trying to stave off losing Dragon, and Dyrus says, if that's going to happen, my teleport's up, then I'm going to give him trouble top lane.
It is really tricky to teleport into a fight without home guard boots to make an initiation happen. At that point, it's kind of a counter teleport.
That's true.
But if they send the whole team up there, they can threaten inhibitor. Trying to make this not about Dragon at all.
Well, they already got a turret out of it. They've pretty much goal side, if you will, on this one, and they're going to be able to swipe that down nice and easy. Just ring around the rosy right now.
It's all about rotating right now at this point, or map movements, all the other things you want to talk. Wave management is really the key at this point because Cloud9 did not manage that top wave, and TSM made the perfect move to counter it.
No answer to that turret going down. Only means Cloud9 maybe getting a little more antsy here. We might see kind of a false engage that they may not want, but may try to get, because they need to get back in this one. Only about 1,000 gold down, but this dragon here could be evened up by Team SoloMid.
Well, I wonder if Cloud9 is just going to be trying to play catch-up right here and push mid lane. Not the greatest luck here. TSM has yet to sweep that bush.
They have to know. They're standing looking at each other.
There
You
they
guys
go.
know it's going to be going on. Nobody gets hit yet. Dyrus is hooked in. He's still pretty tanky, though. Got the health from the Phage. Also has his armor. And they're going to be able to get out of this one. Not really what either team wanted.
It was a really dicey situation. Balls lost Maganar the instant that happened, and now Cloud9 is down substantial ultimates. Pretty much every main champion does not have access to their ultimate right now for Cloud9, whereas TSM saved the majority of theirs. Bjergsen only the one using Spirit Rush, which means TSM can control this dragon. But will Cloud9 pull them off with Baron? Doesn't look like it. What a dangerous little ward Ball's placed there.
Ball's only halfway up to Gnar. He can hop out of this, but he is definitely in a dangerous spot. Lemonation able to give him a dark passage if he requires it.
Now he's got Maganar again. TSM's respecting it.
Yeah. It makes you so big. You really cannot do anything against it. It's so much crowd control, and you have to focus it. It jumps on you. Santorin around from the backside. He can get a full team pop-up here. I don't know if he wants it, though. That's Dragon taken by Meteos and Cloud9. They're just going to waltz right out of the river.
And
that's good for them for the amount of map they've been losing recently.
It really is. And it's very important that they deny TSM that first dragon buff. It's not so much about getting the second dragon as it is about keeping the enemy team from getting there first. The first dragon buff with 6% attack damage and ability power is a pretty substantial gold value at this point in the game. So even though it reads that TSM is up by around 2,000 gold, that is equalized by the added benefits of the 2 dragon buffs on Cloud9.
Seeing Santorin on your screen, definitely looking a bit more comfortable than what we saw at IEM San Jose. Much more at home with the team, with his brotherly Dane in the mid lane as they were controlling the early, or I wouldn't say early game, just after early game.
As the game gets more and more grouped, though, Rek'Sai does lose his effectiveness. So much of his power is about being able to support multiple lanes at once.
So are we currently in his spike?
We have been for the past 15 minutes or so, and I think we're heading into a pretty big dip. Whereas Meteos will be able to be a stun bot, but he is a tank elite, so he's actually in a level of medium effectiveness as well. Jungler for jungler.
Yeah, he's also quite big on items. Sightstone,
it's pretty
Frozen Heart. He's got what he needs right now. Looks like they're going to kind of just wait this one out. They're seeing if TSM's going to make a wrong move here. And after all that control, TSM's now really respecting what Cloud9 has in controlled maps since they haven't been on their own side. TSM's wondering where the wards are. Right now, Dyrus realizes he's on 1. Ball's going to be able to control 2 on this fight. We'll see what Cloud9 does from the blue side. Ball's now distracting still. And
a lot of
no
fight.
fight. This is not getting easier for them. It's only getting harder.
They have control of the speed shrine, but really... Oh no. Are you kidding me? Somebody please, you can see the spider. Meteos with the blue steel. Each with that spider. Santorin not willing to smite it away because he really wanted to give it to Bjergsen. Bjergsen already sitting at half mana. TSM wants to fight now.
Listen, you took my blue, we're gonna fight! Put up your dukes! It's gonna be Gnar. Ball's perfect timing on this fight if he can get in. Meteos goes into the repel. Bjergsen trying to get in with Spirit Rush, but he's just on the outside. Orbit Deception to hit. He does not. He does pick one up, actually. He picks up balls, and the fight continues. High gets splattered down. Sneaky's forced to run out, and Meteos repelled out of this one way early. He's been on the other side of the fight, and they are forced back to their inhibitor turret. Team SoloMid looking strong.
Lustboy did a very good job of controlling the zones on that fight, and honestly, Balls did not get a good Gnar ultimate up, so all that lane swapping to get him more fed was useless that time.
You couldn't ask for a better
TSM,
fight.
because they already took some damage off that mid lane earlier, might finish off that turret. Inhibitors exposed.
Finishing it off indeed. 4 members strong standing too after that fight, so that does not look good for Cloud9 right now. They still have very good chance to come back in this game. Inhibitor to defend here so they could get themselves a fight that they can control. But we'll see how TSM approaches this. Sneaky clearing out some of these. I like to call them Fruit Loops. It looks like a bunch of Fruit Loops on the map. But he's clearing out the Rek'Sai tunnels. We'll see this replay one more time. Dyrus, they just weren't happy that the blue got stolen.
The thing is, when Dyrus got that early stun on High, he got rid of the playful Trickster, which took High out of the fight for a very long time. Notice how High hasn't done anything yet, and the fight's almost 3/4 done.
Meteos too.
Balls could not find a wall to use the Gnar ultimate on. He ended up flashing with his dying breath to get Wild Turtle into the side of the wall, and that's just not enough Gnar effectiveness in zoning. The area of that fight was ideal for TSM.
Whoa.
Initiation was great as well.
Hot dog, Jat. Looks like we're going to have a Baron coming in. 28-28 on the clock. Santorin, he looks like he wanted to dip under the wall there and say hello. A party of Cloud9, but it looks like they stopped this for now. They know there's too many wards to be doing this, but they could be dictated here towards the mid lane, depending on how much time they give TSM.
And I wonder how dissuaded Cloud9 will be from fighting again based on the result of that last fight, or if they can identify the things that went wrong there. It's because they continue to be initiated on by TSM. If High and the rest of Cloud9 control, they're fine. But again, they're getting caught.
Caught right out in the middle of the map once again. Deer in headlights, and TSM's going to start taking control of the fight. That's a double kill coming in for Bjergsen. The choice of Ahri, much, much better than the choice of Cassio and picks and bans, and they're going to be on to the first inhibitor of the game.
And you just don't see stuff like this very often. The fact that the team with Sivir is continually getting caught out by the other team.
They can't even kite back.
Yeah. In open engagements is the strangest thing. But here we go. TSM, the charms from Bjergsen, just the straight up brute force jumps by Dyrus have been enough to find the right fights. And it's the mid lane that they keep hitting again and again and again with vision control and with fights. That's where everything's going right.
And it's something that TSM said it will be, that
this is
the veterancy of Dyrus. They
rely on. Real desperate
on.
play by Cloud9 right here. They saw TSM over on the other side. Rek'Sai trying by his lonesome. The rest of them trying to run in. It's going to be tough. He's got to go for a steal.
Santorin going to go in. That's the damage. It goes to Meteos. The Smite War is not won. The 50-50 was put up. Meteos comes up big. Dyrus going to be going down. Flashes back into the pit. Tries to get one more stun down. He gets hit up. That was a nice boomerang coming in from Sneaky. Over the wall goes Bjergsen. Blue buff is on, so he has the ability to just pretty much spit out damage right now, but they are going to back off of this, and Baron going over to Cloud9.
Cloud9 hits that Baron again and again and again. Eventually, TSM wasn't able to respond quickly enough to it.
They're like suffocating, and they have all the objectives. It's crazy.
Cloud9 went so fast for this Baron, and with the Elise secure, it's almost impossible for Santorin to interrupt it, but he had to try because the rest of TSM was piling in for a team fight. Luckily for Cloud9, so many people could jump out the back of the pit. They were able to get safe, and because of the empowered recall, they can even make it back for this dragon. This could be huge if they control dragon number 3.
Oh, this is great. Charms down. A lot's actually down for Bjergsen right there. They have no control to get back into the fight for that second. Chum the Waters goes out just for a Haiti-ho, and they get out of this one. Cloud9 is just somehow doing this from behind.
That was a zoning fish right there by High. It is not up yet, and TSM is trying desperately to continue their superior map movements. That's what has got them here. But Ball's a little bit ahead of the game trying to clear this minion wave out. And the empowered recall is coming in so quickly from Cloud9, getting back to base faster and running out is just stopping TSM in their tracks.
Seems like they have the wave game a little more on the priority checklist near the top now.
It took 31 minutes, but they're getting there.
They got it. You need to calibrate a little bit. We're back in the season here. Took a little bit of a break, and now we're getting rolling again. The stage is a lot different than sitting on your PC at home, and these guys are feeling that aspect right now. 10-6, still 3,000 gold lead, but every dragon and every Baron to Cloud9 right now. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Bjergsen doing his damnedest to try and carry 12,000 gold to 9,500 from High. Completely lopsided matchup there. And Rek'Sai's losing a little bit of effectiveness coming to this point of the game. But honestly, the Jinx Janna is pretty huge. Lustboy at 7,000 gold isn't even representative of his power because he's got a 13-stack Magi Soul Stealer as well that he picked up before some of those fights.
That stings. I mean, you start with a few, but he's done some good work to get that stacked up. All you need to do is get a nice shield or heal out. Get those pop-ups. Lustboy, we know, would be a very good Janna. Great ward control around the map, and to have that extra movement speed really helped the early part of the game where they were getting hurt. We saw all the wards start going out. We saw TSM buckle down.
Wow, TSM has them cornered.
And now,
you can run fast,
again,
but you're caught.
Ring around the Rosie, and TSM find themselves in the right spot to fight. Santorin getting out of this one. They're tunneling on him, though, and all this damage is now flowing in from the backside. TSM is in full control right now. Santorin is still toying with these guys, baiting them left and right. Sneaky's gonna take one more. The Rocket's down, I believe, from Jinx, and they are gonna be taking down Lemon Nation. Team SoloMid moving the chess pieces perfect.
Yeah, Sneaky and Meteo's barely alive, and if they could have cleaned up that fight, TSM could have won the game outright. Once again, just amazing team fight positioning by TSM. They have completely neutralized the Gnar ultimate. He has not been able to land one the whole game, not for lack of trying. TSM has just never been near walls to get Gnar ultimated into. The flanking they did with that fight, guerrilla warfare really, one side attacking, the other side distracting, allowing Bjergsen to just take over this game on Ahri.
What play. Definitely turning this on halfway through. It did take a while, as we said, but Team SoloMid really buckling down and bringing what they brought to scrims. Now to the LCS stage, teams sometimes having trouble doing that. We'll see this replay one more time.
Look at this, they're collapsing within Cloud9 because if Dyrus can actually get in on the targets, he's great. Santorin and Dyrus somehow enter the fight, and it means Cloud9 can't get to the squishy targets. They have to focus the tanks, which allows TSM to collapse in from the backside. There was nowhere for balls to land a proper Gnar ultimate that time. Sneaky's move speed was neutralized because you run one way into enemies or the other way into enemies, and there was 2 walls on the other sides.
I think Cloud9 had 2 wards on either side that were recently placed. Not placed in the fight. They already knew they had vision around them, and the TSM was there, just not able to act in time. Really getting taken by surprise here. See the Mikhails now on Lustboy for even more safety if Wild Turtle gets caught by anything here. The TSM in full control of the map, really showing strong here on the first day of the NA LCS. I guess the short time of practice really didn't affect them too much. They knew what they were doing.
TSM, it would be so great for their overall confidence if they can take down Cloud9 in the first game of the NA LCS season. We saw over in the European LCS, the 2 teams that met in the finals that last year. In a sense, Fnatic taking them out with a completely new team gave them a bunch of confidence. That little will-o-wisp over there in the jungle is stopping High's flanks in their tracks. And what Cloud9 wants is they want a straight-on fight with no flanking where they can just run at TSM. But TSM isn't letting that happen. No. Dyrus split pushing this top lane, an exposed inhibitor in the mid lane, making sure that at some point TSM can get the right type of flank on. And as long as TSM can continue executing that, they'll win this game despite being down pretty much every objective save turns.
Really interesting to see Cloud9 kind of in a jumble here, Jack. It's usually something they can fix. They usually have the answer to what's happening to them, but right now they're just kind of taking a beating, and maybe that is the answer. Maybe they need to open this up so they can get TSM in a spot that they want. But right now, TSM in the driver's seat, and they have full control. A minute on both Dragon and Baron, something Cloud9's been able to control the whole time. I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore here. They're pretty much stuck at home.
Completely confined within their base.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's base gates, though.
The base gate's cool. High is utilizing it back.
The problem with these base gates, though, is Cloud9's not the team that wants to flank. Yes, High does want to flank, but they mainly just want to run straight at them.
Oh, they're not even coming out of the base, and they're still getting hit up.
There we go.
This isn't even a relatively pokey team, and they're losing quite a bit of HP here. Wild Turtle's going to be able to bring that down. 25% HP on the inhibitor.
Dyrus doing such a great job zoning High in these fights.
Knowing the ability of his champion.
Aurelia.
He had a hard early game. It didn't stop him from becoming a beast right now with the rest of the team as they play together. Bottom lane already pushed as the wave control is there for Team SoloMid. Coming up on 37 minutes. It looks like they're giving Cloud9 a real hard time. Balls on Mega Gnar. Instantly recognized by Team SoloMid. Great disengage.
Really timing the Gnar ultimates properly. Not fighting in the skinny lanes.
Can't do anything.
Knowing the Dragon and Baron alive, they're going to be picking up finally these extra bonuses, and we need to actually track to show you the power of this. Like, there's 446 AP on Bjergsen before that Dragon buff for the 6%. It immediately jumps to 475. It's like 600 gold of ability power, just like that for that Dragon buff.
I'll take it.
Onto Bjergsen, and that's before he gets his death cap.
Well, that's what you were saying they were trying to prevent, that first Dragon, especially towards the later part of the game. We'll see how this affects TSM. Dyrus, not a care in the world, just able to kind of hang out here. The true damage not doing too much there off the third proc on Gnar. And they're able to keep this one safe.
TSM wants to keep the fights in the mid lane. They do not want to get into confined areas.
was talking earlier about how Santorin kind of alerts the map that his ultimate's going off. TSM just looks at balls when his ult goes off, and they're like, nah, let's back off. It's up. Don't go near him. It's been so easy.
Let's not understate, whenever Santorin remains burrowed, everyone gets the Rek'Sai knowledge of the vision. So even though they already have good ward control,
Right, that's a good point.
they can always see where the footsteps are right here, which is a big edge for them in this team. Even if it hasn't shown in this play, just that pick alone, one of the reasons it's banned so much is that sonar that he gets.
Yeah. Very hard to sneak around and do anything. They're doing all the sneaking, however. Cloud9 can't seem to button down all the hatches. Uh-oh. This is going to be a big one. Going right towards Baron again. Boomerang Blade not really doing too much as it
They just can't
slices
get
through the team.
And already they're flanked again. Sivir ultimate down, could not get initiation. One hit by the Janna
They're
Tornado.
so spread too. This is not going to be a good fight.
They just can't get him.
They're still trying to go in for the fight. There's the box. It goes down. Dyrus is right in the middle of this one. Lustboy as well. And it is a completely melted Cloud9 team. Only one more shot. Dyrus flashes to find high, but he's gotten himself out. And Cloud9 is heading for the Nexus turret, or TSM rather.
Dyrus teleports in. They got 3 people down. TSM tries to take that Summer Split Championship into a Game 1 victory here in the spring.
What a definitive matchup coming in for Team SoloMid. They were able to come out strong here in the first game of the NA LCS. Just under 40 minutes, they will find the first win against Cloud9 here in the North American Spring Split.
A really gutty game right there by TSM because it didn't really start that well. The early matchup there from Cloud9 showed better lane swapping, better map control, and then TSM just kind of turned it on. They got control in the mid lane, they started grouping up, they funneled around Bjergsen's incredibly powerful Ahri, and despite Cloud9 having the speed of Sivir, TSM was either there running away, kiting with Janna, or just getting the right fights with Dyrus. A team effort through and through, but spearheaded by Bjergsen.
Yeah, Bjergsen wanted to come back strong. He found himself getting 1v1s at IEM San Jose, so he thought he needed to deliver a first blood 1v1. Santorin was there, but it was just for moral support.
Let's be fair, there was no TF flashing at him level 2 with the gold card this time.
That's true.
Like there was at IEM San Jose. The jungle pressure from Meteos was confirmed, or basically there to neutralize the Rek'Sai and control the river buffs, but applied very little overall pressure to Bjergsen, and that ended up being very costly.
Rek'Sai played quite well. Santorin showing up on that, improving for himself that he can play on the big stage. He's been there. He can do it again. He can replicate results. Man, Wild Turtle on your screen playing Jinx. Played it to quite good effect, and we actually saw that Jinx Janna lane was a reason that Cloud9 didn't want to match up against it, because when they did find that 2v2, it was pretty painful for Cloud9.
It's true. The Jinx Janna right there, synergy from Wild Turtle and Lustboy, held true. High really looking like he's heavily pondering that last game. Not the greatest performance on Fizz. Bjergsen was able to get that solo kill, and then Dyrus just did such a great job of keeping High away from those fights. It's like Dyrus was assigned one person. It's like, you guard that guy. He was just guarding Fizz the whole game and
he was
keeping
in range.
him away from Jinx entirely. Shut him down.
As we said in the beginning, TSM will rely on the veteran people like Dyrus, who can be down 20 CS in the early game, get constantly kind of camped by Meteos, and still come out as one of your initiators.
Yeah, at one point Dyrus was down 2 levels and around 50 CS against a Gnar.
Yeah,
and he had to lane 1v1. And as you said, Meteos was up there frequently.
Yeah.
It's a wonder that didn't turn really, really bad for TSM, but Dyrus held on.
Wonder indeed. Right now we're going to head over to the stage for more on TSM's first win of the split.
Thank you, Riv. I am here with Bjergsen after their first win of the season over Cloud9. Looks like you guys are not ready to give up that North American crown. I have to ask you, though, coming off of the San Jose, a little bit rocky performance, how was the time between San Jose and now? How did the practice go for you guys?
It was really hard for us to practice because Santorin was back getting his visa, Lustboy was getting his visa, so we didn't have as much practice as other teams. We also had some internet problems, so we really only practiced for like a week and a half, I'd say. But we just really tried to optimize our performance and practice as much as possible, and Loco's been really good at that. So I think our practice is a lot better than before.
And now, Amazing used to do some of the calls for you guys for the team, but now is it all on your shoulders, most of the mid-game shot calls?
Most of the mid-game shot calls is, yeah, but Santorin is also helping out. Lustboy has been really getting a lot better at speaking in game and helping with shot calling and all that. So I feel like both of those guys are really filling what Amazing used to do, and I think it's really going well for us with the shot calling.
That bodes very well for your team. Now, speaking of your solo performance here versus High in the mid lane versus Fizz, how do you see usually that matchup going, Ari versus Fizz? And then the kill that you got on High looked like it was you found the pattern in how he was trying to CS under turret and just took advantage of him. Is that what happened, or how do you usually see this matchup?
It's a matchup I like to avoid. I haven't really played it in a while because it's just Fizz can get the early lead and he'll just snowball out of control, but if Ari can maintain the control, she can also get ahead and start snowballing. So I played really safe early game, made sure I wouldn't get ganked from the Elise Thresh and the lane swap, and then once I got some minus, once I got blue buff, you can start poking a lot more, and that's when I really look for the opportunity to go in.
All right, well, congratulations once again, and congratulations to TSM for winning the first game of the season. Now we are going to send it back to the guys at the desk.
Thanks, Kobe. An impressive first game from Team SoloMid to kick off the season with a victory. First thing I want to touch on immediately is the early game, because it actually looked like Cloud9 had a really commanding control and lead there in the early game that seemed to unravel throughout the rest.
Yeah, it seems like they made a very good choice. So we talked a little bit in the pregame about TSM adapting slowly to the times. There was a change in the middle of last season where the experience range of dying minions was vastly increased, and Balls took advantage of that. They started the lane swap, pretty good freeze for both sides. Balls immediately TP's bot lane, and he just starts absorbing experience. And he's matching levels with the AD carries, doing perfectly fine. He tries boomerang, doesn't really matter, but he's gaining levels. And Dyrus is running around double jungling with Santorin, and I don't think that's how you're supposed to play lane swaps anymore. It's pretty easy to be safe while gaining XP in lanes overall, and that was a massive lead. With the level lead, he built a CS lead over Dyrus. He actually killed the turret later on in the one-on-one because he's up 2 levels the whole time. It just felt like, as a team, Cloud9 is more aware of the lane swap situations.
Yeah, and the thing that really surprised me about that is when Gnar is in the lane throwing boomerangs out, the boomerang will usually hit more than one minion, which will cause the wave to push away from you and towards the AD carry and support, and they didn't zone him. They had no real way to zone him unless they were both going to walk up and just go after him. But then on the opposite side, Cloud9 had played it so well by pulling minions into the brush over and over again that they had the wave pushing towards them the entire time. So Dyrus, even if he had showed up, it would have been a long lane that he would have had to try to absorb experience through, and he would have been vulnerable to ganks, he would have been vulnerable to flank arounds and zones. Right. And it's just a really bad situation for TSM, but Cloud9 created that through these tiny little mechanical things.
Yeah, definitely better freeze. I think also part of it is the fact that it's Gnar versus Aurelia and Thresh on one side, so Lemon could just sit in the forwardmost brush and be I dare you to try to get CS.
A lot more damage output than Jet.
Hook into Elise, right? It's a free kill at that point. Gnar can boomerang and say, get out of my brush. So there are, of course, some external factors as well, but I still think something that TSM could have played better.
So we have Cloud9 commanding the early game. A small gold advantage throughout, the first few minutes. And even Bjergsen seemed to struggle with CS. He was losing to Fizz in the early game, which I wouldn't expect to happen normally.
So I had the same thought as you. It was he's losing lane to High. Wow, this is really atypical of him. But his interview, he said, look, all I wanted to do was play passive in the early game, make sure I'm not getting ganked. And if you're going to give up CS to make sure you don't die, because at least cocoons from Fog of War are pretty brutal and you can't guarantee ward coverage, then I get it. You sacrifice 5 CS, but you keep levels, you never get zoned out, never get a bad recall timing. And then he's like, oh, I got blue buff, then I aggressed. And you saw it worked out. So I think this is the beginning of us sort of realizing, look, these guys are potentially actually sacrificing CS on purpose.
Right.
And then just playing it really safe because they know the matchup flips later on.
Exactly. There was a great example of that 15 minutes in, as you said. Bjergsen aggressed onto Fizz, forced him to get out of the mid lane, and then because of the vision and the rotations that they made, they were able to push down not 1, but 2 turrets in the mid lane, which completely opened the map up for TSM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think High on the Fizz, I was not convinced at all. I felt like his playful tricksters, he threw a couple out just to zone with a fish. The time that he actually got chunked under the turret, he had Urchin Strike to the left, and then he E'd to the right with playful trickster, and then the charm came out. Bjergsen held on to that ability and read High like a book. He's like, you're going to E afterwards because you think I'm going to throw a charm, and then he threw it the opposite direction and caught him. And that's what allowed them to do it. And I felt like he just couldn't get into fights after that. They shut down the Fizz, and it's a relatively low damage composition if you shut down the Fizz. It's all this 500 range Sivir after that because you have Elise and Gnar both building tanky.
So I want to go into a replay kind of early into the game. This is one of the more competitive of the two fights because we started to watch them snowball into TSM's direction. We're going about 16 minutes into the game to the bot lane. Freak, I'm going to let you take this one away.
Yeah, so this starts out really good by TSM. They actually massively out-rotate Cloud9, and they identify the fact that Fizz is wave clearing in the bottom. You look at the minimap, you can see Fizz fighting minions over there. And so these guys know for sure that TSM are going to outnumber these guys. Bjergsen's already coming over. So roll the clip, very smart dive to pick up elimination, just a simple dive by Santorin. Onto the turret, no big deal. This is all very smart. Now the thing is, they do take some damage here because there is a turret coming in. So they get a 1 for nothing, and they back out. The TP from Balls comes in making it a 4v4 because Fizz is coming down. Dyrus, though, shows up late, and this is a chase. Lustboy pops Zulti here, but it's still catchable because Balls plays really well. They get the Shark onto him, so now suddenly TSM are outnumbered, and they should still be leaving, or at least have been fighting together in the very first fight. I think if Dyrus had flanked initially, he would have made stuff happen, but he TP'd in to kill the turret while his team was getting chased down, gave up a lot of pressure there. Then he got killed himself, which gave up a turret and a dragon, and this was sort of showing to me TSM's early sort of shot calling not on the same page. Dyrus kind of, like, he either could have recalled and finished Triforce and showed up to a fight, or been part of the fight in the first place, or they could have committed, like, gone right back down into the turret, something like this, but they completely split up and let C9 back in when they got a pick.
Yeah, and when I see a fight like that and I see the teleport come in late, I imagine what had happened if it had come in early, at the same time as Balls even. He would have been able to just push up forward, and instead of retreating down the side, they would have just pushed up the lane more, because it would have been a 5-on-3 at that point. They had picked elimination, and High was actually coming down from the top of where you come by Wolves. And it was going to take him a couple extra seconds, and they had enough damage at that point with Sheen and with these other things, the Phage, to actually pick another member off before High even got there.
Even something as simple as positioning the teleport correctly for a safe retreat. Yes. Because he TP'd into a split position. He was now, you know, bot side of the bottom turret while the team was running.
He got the turret, though.
Yeah,
he got the turret.
But while the team was running up through the jungle, right? And then he paid for it with his life. After that, they chased him down to the bot lane. From there, though, I have to say, TSM started commanding the fights, while C9, we have to give them credit for controlling the global objectives in terms of dragons and barons. We saw them pick up 3 dragons and a baron before TSM picked up any.
Yeah, TSM was really going for all of the turrets and the team fights and kind of neglecting the dragon timer. They were like, it's okay, you can have all these, that's fine. We're not going to even get to the 5 dragon point. They ended up trading inhibitor for baron, which they ended up pushing with super minions later on and using that as kind of leverage. And I thought it was a fantastic plan.
There's an interesting balance between the gold earned from global objectives like turrets versus the stat bonuses or what you attribute as gold value from stat bonuses from things like the dragon. Because what we witnessed was TSM that actually started down a little bit due to CS, ended up skyrocketing in the gold advantage up 4 or 5K in the mid game, while Cloud9 is sitting there putting weight into, well, if we get dragon buffs, that move speed is worth X amount of gold. What do you guys feel is kind of the balance between the two, and when is it okay?
I don't know. To me, like, the more I've played in the new season, I have a really hard time weighing the value of a dragon. I feel like it never feels like it does anything. And I know it does. Like, to me, dragon is more like, hey, if you let me get 5, we're gonna probably win the game. And it's like, I play the games, but like the 6% AD never seems to like matter in the team fights. The positioning is almost so much more important. Hitting an item breakpoint, like, by the way, items are worth more than their weight in gold. They're always over 100% gold efficient, any completed item. So gold is worth more than the gold value of the dragon. Flat out, always, literally the case.
Is that true with Youmu's?
If you activate it, sure.
Yes, if you activate it, yes.
I mean, come on, like,
I gotcha.
There's no item where, like, you combine it, you're like, damn, I wish you didn't buy the combine for this thing. It's impossible. Yeah. So I feel like Dragon is more like a ticking time bomb thing where, look, if we can't close the game out, we're going to keep taking these, and at 36 minutes we will. Great, right? That's fine. But I don't think, like, they have 3 dragons, don't fight them is not, like, the case.
Yeah, right, so I think that begs, then, the question of, like, when we're looking at team comps and team play styles, things like that, are teams that are more oriented towards brawling, sieging, and, really like, hey, let's fight, whether it's under a turret, this or that, are they at a greater advantage now? Because we're starting to realize that maybe, the dragon, you don't need to put so much weight on it early when it's a % AD bonus at 12 minutes into the game.
Certainly Dragon Rushes, I think, mean less than they used to, right? The 3-minute Dragon where you got to get your BF sword a wave earlier and then bully out the bot lane, that used to be a big deal. The 6% AD, I mean, yeah, okay, it's 9 attack damage in my lane matchup, that's kind of nice, but like, right? Like, it doesn't really actually matter. It's like, oh no, I've got a long sword on him, and no one ever cares you got a long sword on somebody. So that's the general gist of it to me. I do think, though, you can have these early game focused comps, but you've got to weigh taking dragons as well as turrets. Right. You've got to get a map advantage. You've got to get the actual gold coming in to push yourselves ahead, because Dragon's not worth XP, it's not worth items. You don't team fight better by taking Dragons, which allows comebacks so easily.
Let's look at our second replay. I want to move back, kind of reorient ourselves back into this game, and look at something that TSM did very well, which was Brawl. Later in the game, we found them pick the right fights, really exhaust the ultimates resources and ultimates of Cloud9 before engaging for team fights. So we're going to pull up the final fight of the game right around the Barons. Irene, I'm going to let you walk us through this one.
All right, so this is where we end up seeing Sneaky and Lemon using Sneaky's ultimate and Righteous Glory to try and find a fight, but they don't find anything. And this composition lacks engage aside from running into them, landing a cocoon, which you'll see Meteos try to flash for and miss it, and Gnar getting in, but they kind of need something to assist him. So TSM just back off, let it wear out, and then they re-engage and kite around, and they never, like, look at them right now before the fight even starts. They're pincer maneuvering this so they don't get Gnar ultied on multiple people. Let's roll the clip out, and you'll see this come out here. They end up using the Righteous Glory there and the Sivir ultimate, and Sneaky's in the back line, and he is their main damage source. Balls is tanky, Meteos is tanky, High is shut down. Sneaky's damage output in this fight is so minimal because of the low range of Sivir. They end up getting some damage later on, but look at this. Turtle is completely untouched there. And how much damage has Sneaky done in this fight? And Cloud9 in general is just extremely low. And it's really, really just about the composition and finding the engage, and they couldn't find it in time.
Exactly. The big problem, I think, was kind of both the Fizz and the Elise together. They had no damage output. Gnar didn't build a Hex Drinker nor a Brutalizer, or even like a Sunfire Cape to deal more damage. Elise went full tank, Ninja Tabby after building the Juggernaut enchant. There's no damage output here in the composition, which you need. Sivir is one of the worst late game carries for damage output, and the entire weight is on Sneaky's shoulders. You can't really bear that as a Sivir when there are threats in your face. You run like an Olaf in the jungle to have a damage threat, or you run like a Jarvan to make sure the engages actually land, and he's actually a decent damage dealer in his own right. The comp works a little bit better. And we talked at the beginning about keeping coaches accountable. Honestly, I didn't like this comp from C9.
Yeah, and the fact that TSM played it perfectly with shutting down High, great on Bjergsen for getting the solo kill, which is something that you shouldn't actually count on. It's like, I'm going to solo kill him in lane, and that's our strat. No, it kind of just fell into his lap, and they're like, oh, we can exploit this. And they kept going in over and over again and really getting High kind of off of his just kind of groove and throwing him out of the entire team fight. He was the last person like alive there, and he really couldn't do anything at all.
We do have to give a lot of credit to Bjergsen, though, for the solo plays. Although, as you said, they can't necessarily be planned for. The fact that he stepped up, did make some of those MVP, type plays in terms of getting solo kills, and then expanding that lead to over 3K at some point individually in that lane matchup. I want to look at how much we think jitters and things like that might have played into this, because when you look at that last fight, I was starting to count.
Yeah.
Thresh missed a hook.
Yeah.
You have High using Playful Trickster, too often defensively as opposed to offensively. He missed fishes throughout the game. I mean, this is uncharacteristic of them, I would say, who we normally tout Cloud9 as being one of the top team fighting teams in the league, and here they are struggling to find the engages they want, and then when they do get an engage, they're not capitalizing on it.
Yeah, I really think that High's fishes were really off too. His Playful Tricksters and his fish were just not landing, and we never saw him make a play where he like QEs in, Zonias, and then he's E's back up and he's able to get out or make a play along those lines. We never saw a play like that from him this entire game, because you really couldn't pull it off being shut down.
Yeah, honestly, C9 still had their big sort of team benefit, the thing that they're so good at they had good rotations. The Baron Sneak was great. They managed to stay up in a game where they were losing, I would say, the most important lane in the game. They were, out-comped severely in team fights and managed to keep it competitive for so darn long, but they still had the individual misfires, a lot of skill shot misses, as you're talking about, and again, a bad champ select, I think.
Okay, well, so let's dissect the champion select some more then. Let's look at alternative things that they could have done here. Yeah, well, in terms of the way it played out, right? We had the Rumble, Cassin, Lissandra bans from TSM. We had the Trist, LeBlanc, and Italy bans from Cloud9, right? Then we see the first pick, Rek'Sai, immediately followed by Gnar Sivir.
Yeah.
I mean, Gnar Sivir to me seems like a very solid first rotation of picks. Sivir, fantastic AD carry right now in the meta, has a lot of mobility, gives you both that engage and disengage that you might want depending on how a fight is turning out, right? So that seems fair to me.
Great.
Then we see Jinx Janna picked up. Where do you go from there? How do you pivot it?
So the one thing to keep in mind is Janna is such a queen of disengage.
Yes.
Like, not only does she, of course, push people back, but what an unsung hero here is the local move speed to dodge skill shots like Cocoon and the Fish and stuff, where it's like, actually, you dodge the skill shot engages too by picking Janna. And it gets really unsung. I think no one's really brought this up before, but it's true. It helps with just a little bit. You still can power through this, though, right? You get like a black shield so that you can't be Janna away. You pick up Morgana's support, which, by the way, Lemon is great at. You go for a Jarvan or a Vi or a champion that is immune to knockbacks when they go for somebody, right? If you need to kill one person, which Jinx is that kind of champion, Vi Fizz, there's no way you peel that.
Right.
You're knocked up for a second and a half, a shark comes at your feet, Jinx is gonna die at that point.
She's going to die.
I became Southern. That's how much she was going, that's how down under she was going to be. I made it work. I made it work.
There it is. You got it.
But I really think that the Narvin should have been the combo that they went for there. I think that the Jarvan was the pick that they should have gone for. Like, they didn't have any real damage with the Elise. Elise Cocoons are really unreliable, but when Jarvan gets up in your face, it's a point and click R, and then the Gnar ultimate on top of that. That's why that combo is just so widely regarded right now, because it's collision terrain for Gnar ultimate. Jat was talking about how the TSM is playing these fights so well because they aren't standing next to walls, so balls can use his Gnar into them. If you just throw the Jarvan R down, boom! Circle of walls. You have walls galore, 360 degrees of walls. What more could you ask for? Even if people are outside of the Jarvan ultimate, you can still Gnar them into it from outside. It's great.
Right. Yeah, I would have to say the jungle Elise pick was probably the most questionable, especially because, again, you look at Jarvan as being that foolproof engage, as opposed to, as you mentioned, due to the Janna, they have the movement speed to be dodging Cocoons, to be dodging Thresh hooks and Fish and things like that.
Yeah. The other big one was Fizz, and I understand the Fizz pick. I can't completely fault C9 for this one because it's a lane matchup. Bjergsen said, I haven't played it much, but it's normally a good matchup for Fizz. Like, this is an understood, like, hey, he picked Ahri, blind pick. You get to kind of pick that lane, and that's not a bad thing to do, but it relies on you winning your lane then, because it's not going to work as well for a team fight. Fizz, without someone to help him get in, without some way to make that skill shot guaranteed to land, you're just going to be kind of a dead champion, right? Getting something like a Syndra or a Xerath, or just something that has reliable damage dealt. When the Boomerang wasn't enough poke, the Sivir Q wasn't enough poke, these guys take one charm, lose half their health, you have no way of firing back, no way of exerting any pressure to then have a follow-up engage on.
Yeah, their engage was kind of like an 800 speed skill shot that's pretty dodgeable.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You have to wonder how we'll see champion select and team comps evolve as the beginning of the season kind of begins to unfold. But now that you've gotten a glimpse of the pros in action, take your league passion a step further by creating a fantasy league of your own. Build a team of your own favorite LCS players, rack up points for first bloods, pentakills, and smash turrets, and take down your friends. Head to fantasy.lolesports.com and start drafting today. For those of you that picked up the Burger King, you are going to be feeling pretty happy with that performance, I have to say. Now, we do have to take a quick break, but Team Coast and Dignitas are taking to the stage for our next match, so don't go anywhere.
Time to get into the action with Team SoloMid versus Cloud9. Flash engage coming in from Santorin. Bjergsen picks up high. Santorin's gonna go down. Is it worth? And that is just going to be Meteos trying to find a way out of this fight. Another one. That's going to be a kill down onto Meteos going over to Dyrus. Meteos goes into the repel. Bjergsen trying to get in with Spirit Rush, but he's just on the outside. Orb Deception to hit. He does not. He does pick one up, actually. He picks up balls, and the fight continues.
They just can't get him.
They're still trying to go in for the fight. There's the box. It goes down. Dyrus is right in the middle of this one. Lustboy as well. And it is a completely melted Cloud9 team.